So this video is kind of like in a continuation of my first video called A German Speaks on Life Without African Americans. So we're going to carry on pretty much where we left off. In my last video, I had said that back in the 80s, there were white people had their own cultural music. And I was only able to name a few bands, and so I can think of more. I've thought of some more bands that I can name. But back in the 80s and the up to the mid, I would say up to the early 90s, white people, most of the youth were listening to, and we're talking about middle school years all the way up to age 25 and possibly even 30. White people back in the 80s all the way into the mid or early 90s, they had their own cultural music called classic rock and hard metal or hard rock. And those consisted of bands like Black Sabbath, AC/DC, Cinderella, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith. What else could be considered classic rock? Chicago, Journey. And then they had heavy metal or hard rock, and that consisted of groups like, again, Black Sabbath, and Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Ozzy Osbourne, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and Kiss. So white people had their own genre of music. And a lot of the white-skinned Latinos just joined them. They would listen to a lot of them listened to all that hard rock too. And then the darker-skinned Latinos, a lot of them, some of them would listen to R&B music, and a lot of them would get into a lot of our 50s old school music like the Temptations and oh God, there's I'm not gonna try to even begin to remember the Supremes, all those groups. Hold on a second. Okay, so let me see if I can pull some up. So a lot of the Mexicans listened to some R&B music, but they liked a lot of our older school music, like the Temptations and what the hell? I can't pull this up. It's not acting right. James Brown. Now, I don't, a lot of them didn't listen to James Brown. That was more blacks and whites would listen to some of that. But some soul artists of the 1950s would be like Ray Charles and Sam Cooke. So the Mexicans more or less listened to that type of stuff, and some of them would listen to more modern day R&B, but they mostly still stayed within their own communities, because in the 80s that's kind of when these music videos first started coming out onto the scene. They started getting real popular with the music industry in Hollywood. And so in the 80s, most of the music videos that were played in the black community and on black channels like BET and others, a lot of our music videos consisted of black men singing love songs to black women. Okay. And then later on, when they started to multiculturalize our music and started to cater it to all races of people, again, with the ordered by the leaders of the music industry, that's when they switched the name from R&B to hip hop now. And that's when Michael Jackson and Prince, let's see, that's hip. Let me pull some up. Okay, so hip hop consisted of Notorious Big. That, to me, he was more gangster rap, actually. Nas, Jay-Z, Wu-Tang Clan, Busta Rhymes, Mobb Deep. And then the gangster music, the gangster rap consisted of Tupac Shakur, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, and Eazy-E, and NWA. That was what started gangster rap. Okay, and then you had your other music groups. You had the black female rappers like Missy Elliott and Foxy Brown, Lil Kim, Queen Latifah. Okay, and then we had, this is all listed under our hip hop. This is all listed under hip hop. A Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Bones, Thugs and Harmony, Cypress Hill, and Digital Underground. And so why some of the Hispanics seem to think that they had a part in creating hip hop is beyond me. But none of the Hispanic artists, like Big Pun, his name didn't even come up when I typed up hip hop artists of the 90s. His name didn't even come up. So this is all listed under hip hop. Okay, and so again, this was black people's cultural music, because all those artists that I just mentioned, those are all black music artists. Okay, and under hip hop, it's broken down into gangster rap, and you got your East Coast rappers, your West Coast rappers, and then you got your rappers from the South, and then you got your female rappers, which a lot of them came from the East Coast. Okay. So again, that's all listed under hip hop. The music industry is the top dogs in the music industry who are basically they're Jews and white men, very powerful men who control the music industry. They are the ones that basically had our rap artists putting certain lyrics into their songs. Well, if you start calling them itches and hoes, then that's going to draw in a lot more listeners, and a lot more people are going to buy your music because you got to really roughen and toughen it up, and it's going to make a lot of record sales. And it did. It did, because the more ghettofied they became, the more records they sold, but it also destroyed the black community in the long run. Okay? Because, these top dog music artists that run the music industry, they weren't going into the country music section of the music industry and ordering those white males to start toughening it up in their community by calling their women a bunch of derogatory names. They didn't order them to put a bunch of derogatory statements and comments about their women in their music to get the sales up. So how come they did that in the black community? Well, they did that to destroy our music, and it also destroyed relationships between black men and black women. It created a lot of hostility. Because when you're growing up and you're listening to a bunch of rap songs calling you all these itches and hoes and, glorifying light-skinned girls and mixed race girls and down-talking darker-skinned girls, when you're putting all that stuff in your music, that creates a lot of hostility between black men and black women. But then again, black men didn't start off doing that. Somebody told them in the music industry to start putting all this, to start roughing up and toughing up their music to make the sales a lot higher. And it worked. And in the long run, it destroyed the black community. Okay. You're down talking your own women. You're glorifying women from these other nations that don't look anything like you. It destroyed the black community heavily. It heavily put a very damaging mark on the black community that affects our people to this very day. Okay, but again, the people that run the music industry didn't do that with Hispanic music. When you listen to Tejano songs, because I've heard a few of them, every once in a blue moon, like once or twice or 3 times a year, I might turn my radio station to listen to Tejano music. It's probably the Mexican in me. Every now and then I get that urge and I might listen to some of their songs. Okay. But you don't see, I don't hear them down talking their women. I don't see anything about how they're encouraged to go and seek women from other ethnicities and bring them into their rap video or into their music videos and start singing love lullabies to women of other races. They didn't do this to Latinos. They didn't do it to the country industry, but they did it all throughout the black community. They told black men to, in order to get your music sales up, you need to start catering to everybody. And so you need to put women of other races into your music videos. have one or two black women, and then have, get girls from the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico and Brazil, and just diversify up your videos. And they started off with putting biracials into our music videos. Then it went from biracials to Caribbean girls who come from Latin speaking countries like the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Then it went from there to Brazilian girls, all these exotic girls from all these different nations that don't have anything to do with the black community, that didn't understand our culture, nothing like that, didn't even listen to our music. They got to take black women's place in our music videos that our men put out. And if other groups out there could just imagine, what if the country, the country music industry did that to white people? What if the country music started putting a bunch of black women and Hispanic women into their videos and allowing white men to start singing black women and Latino women all these country songs and praising them and worshiping them, and only putting one white woman in their videos while they're catering to women from every other ethnicity in the world? They didn't ask the country music industry to do all that, but for some reason, just the black community got asked to do that and told that if you do this, you're going to increase your sales. And it did work. But then again, black men were doing the black music industry was doing just fine prior to catering our music to people outside of our community. We were doing just fine. We didn't need all these other races in the 1940s or the 1950s, all the way through the 1960s and the 70s and into the 80s. We did very well catering our music to our own people in our own community. And other people might have listened to it, but when the videos came on, black men were mostly making the videos praising and worshiping women from their own communities. Okay. And so if these other races were listening and watching videos from the black community, it's because they liked our music, not because they were seduced by our videos. And then eventually, that's what started all these other nations to start picking up on listening to our cultural music and watching all of our music videos. And then later on, they adopted the black culture, everything except our food. I don't remember none of them coming in to black owned restaurants to support our people. I don't remember none of that. But yeah, they would go and start wearing these white women and Hispanic women started putting cornrows in their hair. They started talking with a black accent and getting their nails done and making it look like whatever black women did, white and Hispanic women copied. Okay, so they were basically cosplaying us with plans to try to replace us eventually. And that's basically what they did. And now we have a whole race of, we have a whole nation of these mixed race people, all because of the catering our music to people outside of our community. That's what started it, the whole thing. That's what started the whole thing. So I'm going to stop this right here. And I will pick up where I left off in another video. Thank you.